Welcome back. We are learning more about the Chinese balloon shot down on Saturday. A U.S. general says the balloon was 200 feet tall with a payload that weighed more than a ton. And National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says shooting the balloon down over water gave the military a better opportunity to recover the wreckage than if it were shot down over land. Listen.
It will take some time, and people, all of us, including myself, will have to be patient as we do the recovery and do the exploitation. But we have already been able to learn a fair amount about the capabilities and the tradecraft of this balloon because we were able to monitor it through multiple different means as it traversed the United States.
Joining me now is Admiral James Stavridis, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander and an NBC News Chief International Analyst. Thank you so much, Admiral Stavridis, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, always.
I want to follow up with what we just heard there from Jake Sullivan. What kind of intelligence do you think that China can collect with a surveillance balloon like that? And what can we glean from shooting it down and recovering the wreckage?
Yeah, I think that's the right way to approach this, is to think what are the trade-offs in that regard. And I would surmise that in the end, we are going to get more intelligence than we gave up. And that's because low Earth orbiting Chinese satellites already have pretty good analysis of us. They're tracking us on social media. They have many, many sources of data and intelligence. This would have added to their picture. But look what we got. We have a chance to listen, to watch the communications between this Chinese spy balloon, its mechanisms, to the satellite, back to China. We got to monitor all that for 3 days. And then it drops in the water, only 47 feet of water, which is nothing. And the U.S. Navy, I'm proud to say, as an admiral, is going to go down, find that thing. We'll bring it up. We'll really take it apart. And in the end, I think we'll end up getting a net positive amount of intelligence out of this entire episode.
Admiral, there are a number of people who are wondering why the U.S. wasn't able to, in some ways, intercept the channels of this balloon earlier when it was first detected over U.S. airspace. Do there need to be discussions about improving technology so that that is a possibility, so that the option is not shoot it down when it's over water and wait for that to happen?
Absolutely. And let's recognize that the whole dirigible airship balloon technology itself is changing significantly. We don't know yet what the skin of that balloon was capable of doing. It might have had the ability to be a communications relay. It might have included solar panels for power. We are going to learn an awful lot more. And then what we're going to do, Kristen, is reverse engineer all of that and be more prepared the next time this comes, because I assure you this is not the last trip by balloon over the United States by China.
And, you know, not the last, and it seems like it wasn't the first. We know that there was one during the Biden administration. There's reporting there were 3 during Trump. Former President Trump has disputed that, and some of his top officials say they don't remember 3 balloons entering U.S. airspace. Important to point out, this is the longest a balloon was in U.S. airspace. But I guess the question is, given that, do you see this as an escalation by China?
I think that what we have seen is a pretty direct signal to the United States of displeasure, really about a couple of things, one of which is the agreement the United States just signed with the Philippines to open bases in the northern Philippine islands, specifically on the island of Luzon. Secondly, a new Marine Corps base, first new Marine Corps base in 70 years, opening on Guam. And thirdly, as this visit approached with the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, in the background, the Chinese are hearing discussion of another visit, a visit to Taiwan by the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. So, yes, I think this was an escalation and very probably a signal to the United States of displeasure in all three of those areas.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you about the U.S.'s planned expanded footprint in the Philippines. So just to be very clear, you think that was part of the calculation by China? You don't think this was a mistake, for example?
I think there are very few deep coincidences in the game of geopolitics, and the idea that this balloon would suddenly appear and float across the United States 2 days before Tony Blinken's visit, and in the immediate aftermath of the announcement of those new bases in northern Philippines, plus the announcement of the Marine Corps, I think it appears to me unlikely that that's a coincidence. We may never know with certainty, but with a fair amount of experience assessing this over the years, I'd say it's a pretty good way to bet.
Admiral, do you think that the U.S. should brace for China to retaliate, or do you think that China has gotten the message from the now delayed trip of the U.S. Secretary of State that tensions are mounting and that they're going to back down?
I certainly hope it's the latter, but I would say in particular, for example, to young Navy commanders who are in command of destroyers conducting freedom of navigation patrols in the South China Sea, if I could stand on a bridge wing with a young commanding officer and say to her, hey, be on the front end of your game here, because China could do something quite provocative. Certainly their commentary following the shoot down, which in my view is preposterous. I mean, the balloon had just passed through our sovereign airspace. We had every right under international law to shoot it down, but China made some pretty dark comments. So I would say to our aviators, our mariners who are forward and close to China, now's a good time to be very, very alert.
Okay, some powerful words there. We will leave it there. Admiral James Stavridis, thank you so much for your perspective.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.